Hi there. I've got something to show you, and I think it's pretty important. In fact, our lives depend on it. You see it through the trees? We know our water comes from our taps, but it begins in our 3 catchments that serve Canberra and Queanbeyan to provide our source water. I want to find out more about these precious areas, so I'm going to take a little trip, and I want you to come with me.
Going back to the old days, water was everything. And if you don't have it, you know it.
Rivers are so crucial to our identity, not just to Aboriginal Australians, but to those of us who are newer to Australia as well. But rivers actually have cultural flows, and that's now a recognised idea and concept.
If you think that gold and silver and diamonds are the most important thing on earth, you're wrong. Water is the most important thing on earth.
We've got a unique environment here in the ACT, that we've got these 3 river systems, one on the western side, the Cotter, one on the eastern side, the Queanbeyan River, and one that flows right through the middle, the Murrumbidgee.
Every day most Canberrans would see a lake. We are actually very used, our psyche is very used to seeing water. I suspect that a lot of Canberrans would love to learn more about the source of the rivers that flow into the lake, because the lake is what we see most of the time, our various lakes. But to actually hear the stories of the people that water passes through as it comes to Canberra would be really powerful.
Well, I think I've been issued with a challenge there, so let's see what we can find out. Well, I think finding this stone pile and this trig point means that I've probably reached the top of Gourock National Park, probably about 1,500 metres. I can't probably exactly find where the Queanbeyan River begins, but I know it begins just out the back here in this country. It's very thickly wooded, and the catchment area is all in there and heads in towards Queanbeyan, some 70 kilometres that way. We're east-southeast of Queanbeyan here. Well, you can see how the Queanbeyan River begins to look as it's flowed down from Gourock National Park in the far distance there where we've just been, comes down into this open farmland, private land, and then it will continue on and flow along the edge of Tinderry Nature Reserve, which is our next stop.
The big ticket items for us are pesticides and other chemicals that are used by agriculture around, but in particular erosion and cattle grazing near the water or through the water. Well, if you graze stock close to the river, like very, very close to the river, well, you can cause erosion right near the river, which means if you have a rain event, more dirt gets into the water, and then we have to treat it a lot more robustly. And also, if the cattle graze physically in the water, and then cattle do what cattle do, and you have the back end of the cattle, then that we need to get out of the water as well. Cattle in particular has one of the highest pathogen risks, whereas native animals, the pathogens aren't human transferable. Agriculture animals, the pathogens are human transferable, or at least some of them are, and so it's a much higher risk.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi Richard, how are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. Well, I've made it. I found where we are.
Welcome to Tingery.
Yeah, thanks very much. It looks amazing.
It's
yeah.
it's a very special place.
Yeah.
So today we'll travel up Round Flat, up into the higher sections of the reserve, and we'll come down into the east, down onto the Queanbeyan River, which runs on the eastern boundary of the reserve. Tingery Nature Reserve is now almost 15,000 hectares in size. When it was first gazetted in 1981, it was just over 12,000 hectares.
So Maggie, Tingery isn't exactly flat country, is it?
No, it's quite rugged. It rises to about 1,600 metres from the Monero Plains up onto Tingery Peak. So if you just walk up here, you can just see Tingery Peak, which is the highest point in the Tingery Range. So here we have Stony Creek, and this is one of the main creeks that comes down out of the peaks of the Tingery Range within the reserve, and at this point it flows into Groggy Creek, and this has come down from a little bit further north in the reserve, and then they join together and head further east down into the Queanbeyan River. So these are two of the main creeks running into the Queanbeyan River from Tingery Nature Reserve. In terms of how we look after the creeks and the catchment, it really ties into our overall management of the reserve, of things like maintaining our trails. They're all dirt tracks, and so we make sure that the drainage is efficient and we're not getting silt and soil running into the creeks, which then ends up in the river. We're making sure that there's not major erosion events associated with the trails, again, so we don't get that siltation of the rivers. We also make sure that any of our other management activities, such as pest animal control or weed spraying, doesn't impact on the catchment and the water. So that means not using herbicides and pesticides anywhere near our water sources. So here we get a really great perspective on where some of the water comes from for two of Canberra's main rivers. On the far western side of this Tingery Range, we get Michelago Creek running into the Murrumbidgee. To the north end of Tingery, we've got Burra Creek that runs into Googong Dam. And then on this eastern slopes, all of these creek lines run down into the Queanbeyan River. So there gives you a really great idea of where the water goes to from Tingery Nature Reserve. I think most people would know the Queanbeyan River as being the river that flows through the township of Queanbeyan, or the river at the bottom of the Googong Dam. But this part of the Queanbeyan River is probably what most people don't often get to see, these raw, remote stretches.
Well, today I'm going to a property called Queanbeyan, and we're going to see some beautiful river country on this 450 hectare working property. Here we go. Queanbeyan. Hi, Claudia.
Hello, Richard.
How are you? Yeah, really well, really
Pleased
well.
to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me out to Queanbeyan.
Okay,
That's great.
it's a pleasure.
Now, you have the Queanbeyan River.
We do.
Yeah,
We've got the Queanbeyan River on our western side. The western part of our property is all river, and that flows into the Googong Dam. So we're above the Googong Dam.
So in many ways, the Queanbeyan River here is fairly unaffected. There are no dams above it. There's a lot of national park
Yeah.
and some private land.
Yeah, that's right.
So it would be it would be quite pristine, I imagine.
Well, you'd think so,
Yeah.
but we've got all the common and well-known problems, such as feral animals. On this property we have deer, pig, foxes, goats, rabbits. All these feral animals affect the land here and the nature reserve that surrounds us. So they need to be managed, so we have to manage that issue. We have no direct neighbours. Our most direct neighbours really the national parks. We look after the nature reserve. Yeah.
All right, well, are we going to take a little bit of a
Yeah,
drive?
I thought we'd take a little drive to the northwest corner of the property where we've got something really, really beautiful.
I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is just some of the most beautiful river and gorge country.
It's a jewel in the crown of the river, isn't it? It's lovely to be close to its source, and to see how it sort of goes through the countryside, and
Do you feel some sense of responsibility having this river and it being part of our water supply?
Absolutely, absolutely. Anything that connects the landscape up, the land to the water to the land, and everything that goes with it. It's a package. It's a package deal, and you should treat it like a package deal, not like separate little bits.
How do you feel about the environment in the broader scheme of things?
I feel positive when I think about the younger generation. I think they're picking up the message really, really well. And I've often planted trees here with my grandchildren when they were little, and they were so excited to be planting trees and to be part of that, or to be helping clear the river of weeds. And they just really loved it.
You gotta let that water flow, even if you build a dam. You can't just keep it in a big puddle, because when it's in a puddle, puddles evaporate. You know, you gotta let it loose every now and then. Let that river flow and let it clean itself.
The three rivers that flow into Canberra can be looked at as a barometer, if you like, for our health. And a river waxes and wanes, and in Australia we have incredible times of boom and then really big times of bust. And if you actually look to river systems to learn about Australia, you quickly find out that we are an amazing continent with fantastic native plants and animals that are highly adapted to that boom and bust cycle.
Hello there.
Hi.
You must be Heather.
Yes, I am. Hi, Richard.
How are you?
Good,
Yeah.
thanks.
Good.
So I'm going for a drive up the Murrumbidgee, and I'm wondering if you'd like to come with me to have a look at the source.
I'd love to.
Great.
Yep, absolutely.
Jump in.
Let's go.
Yeah, lots of people, when they visit the Monero for the first time, they're quite amazed at the lack of trees, obviously, and the native grassland is very different to a lot of other areas. And they think it's very dry, it's very barren. It's never really green like you see other parts of Australia. So, yeah, I guess there's a lot more going on than first meets the eye. We started in Cooma on the Monero and have driven up through Adaminaby, and as we climb, even though it's quite gradual, you notice that the landscape and the vegetation changes to a more subalpine feel.
Now this was getting really exciting. I could almost smell it. We're really close to the Murrumbidgee source.
So here we are sitting right up at the headwaters of the Murrumbidgee River, and you can see what a beautiful little mountain stream that it is. And behind us here is Peppercorn Hill, which is known, I guess, as the site or the source of the Murrumbidgee. And this whole little catchment area behind us is a big alpine bog area where the Murrumbidgee just sort of starts and comes up out of the ground, and it's a beautiful spot. This is the Murrumbidgee in its natural state, and it's upstream of any dam or any regulator or weir. So this is the river in its purest form, and it's just beautiful and clean and clear. I think we might jump over the river.
We can jump over the Murrumbidgee.
Not many people can say that they have jumped over the Murrumbidgee. Ready?
You go first.
Me go first. Easy. Australia's capital city, Canberra, is the major city in the Murrumbidgee catchment, where over 300,000 of those people live. And then Wagga Wagga would be the next largest urban centre. But yeah, over 500,000 people, it's quite amazing, all live in this area and I guess value this catchment. It's the second largest in the Murray-Darling Basin, and it has an area of something enormous, I think 84,000 square kilometres in all. So it stretches from here on Long Plain all the way to Cooma, and then the river turns and flows north to Canberra and to Yass, and then turns west and flows all the way down to Balranald. My role in the CMA is varied. I do a lot of work with local landholders, encouraging them to do good environmental work on their properties, because the CMA is obviously very interested in the health of the catchment, the health of the people, and the health of the river. With any catchment, it's really important for everybody to work together. Lots of people have different uses and different values that they place on the catchment, but in recent work that the CMA has done, where we asked all different types of landholders and stakeholders who live in the catchment, we asked them what they valued most about this landscape, and I would say the majority of people would say that they value the river. So we're now at Tantangra Dam. So we've come down the Murrumbidgee River from Long Plain, and this is the first dam on the river. I guess this is the point where the Murrumbidgee River really changes, and a lot of the water from the upper headwaters of the river is stored here in Tantangra and then actually pumped through to Lake Queanbeyan and forms part of the Snowy Hydro electric scheme. So it's quite phenomenal to think that over 99% of the water that comes down the Murrumbidgee headwaters enters Tantangra Dam and then gets diverted through a tunnel underground into Lake Queanbeyan. So the river downstream of the dam is highly modified, and a lot of landholders will talk about the river before 1960 downstream, and they would say now that due to the dam wall and the diversions through the Snowy system, that the river is half of what it used to be. It is obviously really still important to maintain environmental flow, especially for native fish species. So at the moment, as we speak, there's currently an environmental release happening out of Tantangra Dam, and that is designed to, I guess, trigger a breeding event for the Murray cod. Smaller environmental flows are also released throughout various parts of the year for other fish species, and especially the endangered Macquarie perch. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. I've got a fantastic job where I get to hang out outdoors a lot, get to meet some amazing people. But the most fascinating thing is, I guess, watching the landscape change in the seasons and also observing how people respond to that and change their management as well.
So looking at private land on the Upper Murrumbidgee today, so I'm just working my way through Cooma and heading out to a property at Shannon's Flat.
Richard.
G'day Hugh, how you going?
Good,
yeah,
very good. You found your way here all right?
Yeah, I found my way. Your directions were perfect.
Oh, good, right.
So tell us a bit about the property. How long has it been in the family, Hugh?
This was bought in 1938, just prior to the war. My father bought it.
The Murrumbidgee actually borders on your property?
Yes, the Murrumbidgee forms our bottom boundary. There's 2 or 3 k's of joining the river down there. The only thing that I have noticed over the years is that, you know, there is a certain amount of siltation since Tantangra went in. We used to go to the river as kids, pre-Tantangra days, and it's just that I know where there's there used to be big water holes, and a lot of them have just silted up now, and there's a sort of a bamboo sort of a weed growing on it, and it sort of really enclosed the river up a bit to a large degree.
It's such an iconic river. You know, do you feel it's quite a special thing?
Well, not only that it's an absolute guaranteed source of water, and in previous drought years when people have been putting bores down and looking desperate at their dwindling water supplies, it's just a nice feeling to know that you've got endless water there if you need it.
Well, I remember we studied the Snowy scheme at my school in New Zealand, and then to suddenly come and live on the actual banks of the Murrumbidgee was all rather romantic, I thought.
We had a massive freeze up in 1965, and we'd had quite a snowfall, and then we got a massive frost on top of it, and the river froze over, and I was down there, and I got a photo here, that's me actually. I propped the camera up in a tussock and hoped it was aiming in the right direction, and gingerly went out onto the ice. That river was frozen right over there, and I'm sure I could have walked to the other side, but I was being a bit careful, because if I went through I knew it'd be damn hard to get out, so I didn't fancy that. Photos on the river was frozen over. We're now looking here where that photo that you saw earlier, where that was taken, and all this river here was just a sheet of ice, and as you can see it's quite a deep river and reasonably fast flowing, and that's where I was standing halfway out on the ice. As a kid I can remember this was deep water right where we're standing now, and there was none of this weed that you see is taking over, and the only thing I can put that down to is that we don't get the high floods we used to get before Tantangara Dam was put in. Another 30 years it'll most really be just a shadow of its former self.
Does that make you a bit sad, or?
Oh well, it does. The fact that the river was such a free-flowing river, and then suddenly it's choking up with weed.
We did not see this coming. Plus, you couldn't tell how soft the ground was with the naked eye. Anyway, with a seriously bogged ute, we had to radio back to Jackie to meet us on safer ground.
It's quite a nice view in the background.
I reckon Shorty wanted to go back and have another crack at getting the ute out. But he soon thought better of that.
We're upstream from where you were previously photographing, and this is in the Gorgie country, which as you can see would be unchanged since time immemorial. It takes a river a long while to wear a rock away like this. You wonder what geological turmoil created all this. It's extraordinary, thousands of tons of rock all just stacked like that. When you go back, if you go up along the river here, you'll see in another 2 kilometres it opens out and it's a great big flat, thousands of acres of flat country with the river just meandering down through it. So, and then it gets into this gorgy country and changes entirely, you see.
Well, today I'm heading to a property on the Murrumbidgee River near Mikalago, south of Canberra, to see some work that Greening Australia have been doing with the local landholders. So where are we heading to today?
We're heading up to a landholder that we've worked with for 12 years now. He's on he actually faces down onto the Murrumbidgee River.
Okay.
And he's been doing a lot of work on his gullies, trying to protect the quality of water going into the Murrumbidgee off his property.
Here we are.
Yes, hello.
Well, we have all in all 600 and something acres. We have not actually measured it, but that's about right.
Mm.
And it undulates down to the Murrumbidgee with about 5.5 kilometers of river frontage.
Wow.
And we left round about 40-50 acres as virgin bush around the foreshores of the Murrumbidgee.
About 2001 we had a project called Bidgie Banks, and we decided that Michael was interested in stabilising these gullies, and so that grant helped to do that, although Michael put in an awful lot himself. And a couple of dams were put on a gully and it was all revegetated, and another couple of gullies were planted, and the river itself was fenced off, so it was quite a big undertaking for a new landholder.
I think water is secret here. We do catch all our own rainwater and use the water for drinking, bathing and washing. We have a grey water system where we use the grey water. So we don't pump out of the Murrumbidgee as such. We do graze a few cattle here, Angus cattle.
They look pretty friendly.
On marginal land, but they still do okay.
So Michael, are we really going to get down to the water here?
Yes.
I'm a bit worried. All I see is a drop.
No. You're in safe hands.
In Canberra we're really lucky. We've always had a really fantastic water supply, and prior to the fires in 2003, water coming from the Cotter catchment was barely treated. So I lived at Bendora Dam for just a very short time, and I could drink the water straight out of the dam up there. It was so clean.
What happens, Michael, I guess, when people like you are doing all this work on your property, but the neighbours on either side may not be? Does that sort of let the side down as far as, and if they have the river passing along there?
Well, without pointing fingers, yeah, sure. I would like everybody to have the same attitude I have, but I'm a gentleman farmer. I can afford the time. I guess this is your point. Why not more people do it? Some people really have to earn a living, and their priority is to put food on the table and serve their mortgage, if you like, rather than having the extravagancy of helping nature.
Most towns and cities in Australia do rely on what people do upstream as to how clean their water is when it gets to them. So having people like Michael is just essential, and having a lot of people like Michael is critical too.
Well, it really boils down to the fact that the more we can assist the river to purify itself, keep itself clean, the better is the outcome.
All this environmental work, particularly with Greening Australia, is all about relationships with farmers and other agencies, and trying to get everyone on the same page and working together and embracing new ideas.
The overall strategy should be for humankind to live in harmony with nature. People have shouted that from the rooftops and will do it forever, but who listens?
Yeah.
This is the problem. To live with nature in harmony is not easy, because you often find the luxuries of these civilizations, so-called civilization, believe the luxuries are also damaging nature. So for young people and people that have grown up to be a bit sensitive towards questions of the environment, I have this to say, is what you've been given by nature for free, treat it well.
My nephews are always telling me off for doing things that I would have thought being perfectly reasonable when I grew up, but now they're taught that it just doesn't work like that anymore. We know more about the climate, we know more about the pollution, we know more about water consumption, and so it just seems the next generation's got a better handle on it.
Today I'm again joining Greening Australia, but this time near the Cotter River, to see the work they've been doing to look after this important catchment area.
So tell me, what have we got in store for today?
Yeah, so we'll be heading around the lower Cotter catchment where we are right now, and so we'll be looking today at some of the areas where our volunteers have been working since the bushfires in 2003.
Hi Colin, how are you? Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you, David.
G'day Dave, how are you? What was it like when you first started working out here?
Bored. Oh, this was all.
This
nothing.
was all pretty bare.
It was just bare.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, there's a photo in the
grass sort of thing. The odd tree was around, but
nothing like this.
We made the effort to complete this verge here all the way to an intersection up there. It's about 1.5 kilometres long, and we planted all natives at about a 50 metre to 100 metre strip all the way along over those 4 years or whatever it was that we've been working here. The wildlife has come back too. You can hear birds singing and that sort of thing, which you didn't have here before. You can hear them now.
There you go.
Yeah. It's nice out here.
Yeah, it is. It's nice atmosphere. Yeah, I retired and decided I needed something to do, so I think I met Ian on one of the big plantings, and he said, oh, if you want to come down and check it out, and that's what I did, and I thought, oh, it looks good. And that's how it all started, so I'm still here. Do about twice a week now.
Volunteers are everything that we do. We work with the community, whether that be with the Canberra community close to their backyards, out here in these areas of public land, or that be landholders volunteering their land and their time to help us regreen Australia. So volunteers really are a fundamental part of everything we do.
When I finished work or retired from full-time work nearly 10 years ago, I was looking for something to do, and I saw an article in one of the local newspapers which described an adopt a patch scheme that Greening Australia was starting. I was taken for a drive around the areas that were affected by the bushfires, which is around here, the big bushfire in 2003, and I could see the devastation that had caused. It reminded me a little bit of the pictures of the Somme during the First World War, and it looked terrible. So I thought, well, if I could do something to, bring things back, that would be great. Basically, I do a day a week when I can, when it suits, and it sort of enabled me to make what I hope is a significant contribution to restoring the landscape to its former state.
Before the fires, that was a forested catchment and nobody could get out there because it was so forested. There was very few tourist traffic and that type of thing. And so the water was pristine. And so all we had to do before we sent it to town was disinfect it, and you could drink it essentially straight, and the risk of getting sick was really quite low. Following the fires, all of that ash washed in, and there's also a lot more wildlife and a lot more tourist activity out there now. And so because of that, there's a lot higher risk of pathogens, and also the water is aesthetically not quite so pleasing. So it tastes a bit funky, it's got metals in it, that type of thing.
And we put a guard around them. That'll give them some protection from the kangaroos and rabbits that you have around that might be interested in a feed. It's a win-win situation on a lot of fronts. Water quality being the main tangible sort of thing, we can look back and say, well, it's a result of the revegetating of our catchment area. But there's also benefits just for the beauty of the place, and presumably, or hopefully, some ecotourism later down the line. It provides an education facility for students into environment issues to come out and have a look at the work that was done and what benefits came out of it. For wildlife, the return of wildlife to the area that sort of disappeared.
Richard, how are you?
G'day, Brett. Yeah, really good. How are you?
Good to see you, mate. Good indeed. Very well indeed. Beautiful day for it today.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it?
Glorious day. Listen, why don't you come inside the visitor centre, and I've got something to show you, and we'll have a bit of a chat about what we'll get up to today, eh?
Okay, sounds good.
Come on through,
let's
mate.
go.
Come on through, mate. Come on through. I thought maybe today we might go up and have a bit of a look at the catchment, in particular the Cotter catchment. And what I'm particularly keen on showing you is where it all starts. That is the Cotter source up here at Mount Scabby. The Cotter then flows through to the north of us and fills up our dams, and of course then provides all of our water, as I said, to Canberra and Queanbeyan. So it's a remarkable story.
I can't understand it, Brett, how we're going to cover this whole Cotter catchment in a day in your four-wheel drive.
Well, as you say, Richard, it's a huge area that we manage, and look, really the only way to get around it and to really understand and to see it for what it's really worth is to jump in something like this, my friend. So.
Oh, whoa! Are you serious?
No, this is about the only way you can really get to understand and appreciate the majestic beauty that is the Cotter catchment is by air. So why don't we hop in this machine and go for a look and check out the values that are the Cotter catchment.
I was wondering about going in your four-wheel drive.
It'll take us a while to get around.
So, Brett, this is it, is it?
Mate, we are, Richard, we are at the Cotter source. This is where it all starts. The Cotter River basically just emerges from this flat, this sphagnum bog, and makes its way down the Cotter Valley, and importantly provides Canberra and Queanbeyan with well over 80% of our water comes out of this catchment.
So what is a water source? I mean, where does it come from? And
well, literally, it comes out of the ground. It comes
right?
out of a soak, and we'll head down. I'll have a look at the sphagnum bogs down there. But literally, it just emerges out of the soaks, and then, as I say, because of the elevation where we are, it then travels its way down through the valley and into our water supply network. An incredibly important part of the world. Without this, Canberra is not located where it is, and we don't have the nation's capital as we know it today. Here it is, Richard.
Crystal clear.
Isn't it? It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. In fact, it is so crystal clear you can easily have a drink. Beautiful. The Cotter source, my friend. This is where it all starts.
Wow, that is incredible.
One of the key roles that we have as a park service is maintaining the catchment values of this area, and we do that in a number of ways. One of the biggest impacts we have up here is feral pigs and feral animals. So we have a very rigorous, robust control program in place to maintain the quality of the catchment through those vertebrate pest management programs. Well, here we go. Here's a very, very good example of what I was just saying there before about the impact of heavy-hoofed animals on the catchment. What we have here is an example of pig damage, or pig rooting as we call it. And what you can basically see here is how the pigs have got their snouts in underneath the poa, the beautiful snowgrass here, and have turned the poa up, looking for sort of grubs and worms, what have you. You can see the example of that here, where they've got into the legumes here. But in doing that, they've actually disturbed this catchment and actually created an environment whereby weeds could come into this location, or more importantly, sedimentation can actually impact on the quality of the water around here. And it's that impact there that you can see in terms of the sedimentation is caused as a result of the damage to the poa tussocks. Now, how many pigs we've got up here? Maybe one or two. But multiply that by hundreds of pigs, the impact would be quite devastating in terms of the values of the catchment here. So what we do is try and maintain those numbers by controlling the animals in this particular location. But because of the location we're at, very remote, very, very difficult to get to. And the only way we can get up here is through the helicopter in terms of control programs and implementing those programs. Even visitors can have negative impact on the catchment. So we are within an area that's part of the Bimbri Wilderness area. So we manage the impacts not only through people, but also in terms of feral animals and weed species as well. But to a large extent, Richard, what we really do is more about people management. Everything that we do relies on people. The weeds, the feral animals, everything has been brought in by people. So as a park agency, we don't really manage the environment because the environment manages itself and has been doing it for hundreds of years. What we do really is manage the impact that people have on that landscape.
You're making me climb here, Brett, so I hope this better be good.
Look up here, there's something very, very important. Well, Richard, look, to the uninitiated, this just looks like a pile of rocks out in the middle of nowhere, but it's more than just a pile of rocks. This is an incredibly historic marker. This represents the ACT New South Wales border. Put very, very simply, it was based on this understanding that if you're a raindrop and you landed on this side of the catchment, you'd fall into New South Wales, which is the Goodra-Digby catchment. On the other side, if you fell into the catchment, you're within the ACT, or the Federal Capital Territory. So this border and this border marker represents the catchment, the top of the catchment between ACT and New South Wales. A remarkable part of the country, my friend. Have you ever wondered about why the ACT is shaped the way it is?
Yeah.
Look, and in some ways it almost looks like a human ear. Now, someone many years ago suggested to me that perhaps the only reason why it's shaped that way, that is a human ear, is because of all the politicians that we have here. The politicians come to Canberra and they listen to the nation, and therefore the ACT is shaped like a human ear. Good story, but not true at all.
Yeah, okay.
What it's all about is catchment and water catchment.
So that's it, the trickle, that is our source water. Did you know that a newborn baby's body is almost 80% water? An adult usually about 60%? That means our water catchments really are part of us, so we must look after them as we do ourselves.